Gen 5 introduced a lot of new features to the Pokémon universe. One very interesting addition is having 2 rivals instead of 1, and battling them over and over until the end of the game. We are talking, of course, about Cheren and Bianca. But I wonder, were their teams balanced? Could they earn all the badges and become champions of Unova with their combined teams? Welcome, trainers! Sergibit here! In this run, we will only use Pokémon from our rivals' teams. To increase the difficulty, we are not counting their post-game teams. Also, the starter Pokémon and the elemental monkey must be the ones provided by the game, and you are not allowed to obtain or use any additional Pokémon from those categories. This leaves us with only 6 Pokémon lines available. We are going to use the same rules as in previous runs on this channel, as you can see on the screen. With that, let's begin! We started by setting the options according to the rules of the challenge. After that, we picked our starter, a Tepic that we named Deadlift. Once we defeated both Cheren and Bianca, we realized we wanted to be like them. Together, we went to visit the professor who gave us a Pokédex, and we began our adventure through Unova. On Route 1, we started hunting for our second team member, a Lillipup. This took a while since I wanted one with the Vital Spirit ability. Once I found it, I named it Row. With that, we arrived at Akumula Town, where we met Team Plasma. Here, we had our first battle against N, using Tackle over and over until his Purloin went down. After the events, we went to Route 2 to catch the third member of our team, a Purloin that we named OHP. Before leaving, we had to battle Bianca. I sent Lillipup and used Tackle after Tackle, also triggering the heal. Next is Snivy. I use Tackle, she uses Bite. I switched to Deadlift and use Ember to KO her ace. Once that was done, we arrived at Striation City. First things first, we got another team member, a Pansage that we named Bench Press. Before we could enter the gym, we had to battle Cheren. He sends Oshawott, and I switched to Bench Press to beat him using Bindweed. Next is Purloin, and I switch again to Row. 2 tackles are enough to defeat it, winning us the battle. With that, we entered the gym to battle the trainers and train to reach the level cap. I decided to face the gym leader using Row and Bench Press. Cillian leads with Lillipup. He uses Work Up and I use Bite. He crits with Bite and I use Tackle. We both repeat our moves and I KO him. He sends Pampur and I switch to Bench Press while he uses Work Up. I use Bindweed and he uses Water Gun. We both repeat our moves until he heals. 2 more Bindweeds are enough to defeat him, winning us our first badge on our first attempt. After the battle, we met Professor Fennel and caught a Patrat to use for Cat. After that, we went to the Dream Yard to save Amuna from Team Plasma. After beating the Grants and getting the Sea Gear, we returned to the same place to find and catch Amuna with the Synchronize ability. Meet Squad, our 5th member. Then we went to Route 3. While battling there, Lillipup evolved into Herdier. Before moving forward, we had to battle Cheren again. He sends Oshawott, we use Bindweed and Water Gun respectively until I eventually put him down. Next is Purloin. I keep using the same move and defeat his Pokémon for another easy win. After the battle, on the same route, we caught our final member, a Pidove that we named Pull-Up. With our full team, we entered Wellspring Cave to beat Team Plasma again. After the events, we arrived at Nacren City. Before moving forward, we had another battle against Ten. He leads with Pidove, and I sent Pignite. 1 critical hit flame charge is enough to put the bird down. Next is Team Paul. I switch to Bench Press who tanks a Bubble Beam. I use Bindweed 4 times, tanking his moves until I eventually KO him. Lastly, he sends Timbur. I switch to Deadlift and he uses Bite. I wait for Bite to finish and then switch to Flame Charge. 2 more of the same moves are enough to put him down after a Leer and a Focus Energy. Once the battle was done, we battled the gym trainers and trained for the level cap. During this training, Purloin evolved into Liepard and Tepic into Pignite. After that, it was time to beat gym leader Lenora with Herdier and Pignite. We both started with Herdier, triggering the Intimidate debuffs. She uses Leer and I use Work Up. She uses Leer again and I use Takedown. She heals and I use Bite. Another Takedown puts her down. She sends Watchhawk, which uses Retaliate and KOs our Pokémon. I send Pignite. She uses Retaliate again and I use Arm Thrust. She misses Hypnosis and with another Arm Thrust we win the battle on our first try. We would have lost for sure if she had landed that last Hypnosis. Second badge secured. After the robbery at the museum by Team Plasma, we headed to Pinwheel Forest to chase them and recover the stolen item. Once that was done, we crossed Sky Arrow Bridge to arrive at Castelia City. After exploring the walled city of Camera, we had to stop Team Plasma's plans again before entering the gym. After that, we headed inside the gym to beat the trainers and then reach the proper level cap. During this time, Pidove evolved into Tranquil. To beat Gym Leader Burg, I choose Tranquil, Muna, and Pignite. Let's see what happened. I send Muna, and he leads with Benipit. I use Psybeam, and he uses Pursuit. He heals, and I use Psybeam again twice, confusing him. He hits himself in confusion, and another Psybeam puts him down. Next is Dwebble. He uses Feint Attack and I miss my move. Another Feint Attack puts us down. I send Deadlift and I misclick on Rollout while he uses a Smackdown. I miss and he uses a Smackdown again, but one Arm Thrust is enough to knock him down. Burg sends his ace, Libany, who misses a Razor Leaf. I use Flame Charge, one-shotting the Pokémon and easily winning our third batch. After heading north and just before leaving Castelia City, we had another rival battle against Bianca. She leads with Herdier, and I send Pignite. I use Arm Thrust, one-shotting the Pokémon. Next is Hermuna. I use a couple of Flame Charges and knock her down swiftly. Bianca sends Pampur. I switch to Bench Press and she uses Water Sport. I use Seed Bomb and one-shot the Water Monkey. Her last Pokémon is her ace, Servine. I switch to Pull Up and she uses Leaf Tornado. I land an Air Cutter and she goes for Growth. Another Air Cutter is enough to put the Grass Pokémon down, winning us a very easy battle. Barely a few steps later, we encounter our rival Cheren, who also wants to battle. He leads with Pidove, and I send Herdier. One takedown one-shots the bird. He sends his ace, D-Wood. He uses Razor Shell and I miss my move. Another Razor Shell and Herdier is down. I send Bench Press. I use Seed Bomb, dealing massive damage and triggering the Citrus Berry. I repeat the same move and put him down. Next is Pansear. I switch to Squat and he lands a critical hit with Incinerate. He uses Yawn and I use Psybeam. Another one is enough to put him down. His last Pokémon is Liepard. I try to switch but Pursuit knocks us out. I send Deadlift. He uses Pursuit again, and Arm Thrust almost one-shots him, but the Sandstorm from this area finishes the job for us. Finally, we can move north through Route 4 and quickly reach Nimbasa City. Here, we easily deal with some Team Plasma grunts. We proceed through the story inside the music hall, and then take the Ferris wheel ride with N, which triggers a battle against the main antagonist. He leads with Sandile, and I send OHP. I use Fake Out and then switch to Bench Press, and a Seed Bomb is enough to put him down. Next is Darumaka. I switch to Row and he misses his move. Next turn he lands a Fire Punch, but we miss Takedown. Row tanks another Fire Punch and this time we also land Takedown. Luckily he misses Headbutt and we win with a Bite. And sends a Scraggy, we land a Takedown and feint from the recoil. I send Pull Up and with an Air Cutter we beat him. His last Pokémon is Sigilyph. He outspeeds with a Psybeam that confuses us and we hurt ourselves in confusion. I switch to OHP and Air Cutter does half damage. I use Fake Out first, and next turn Pursuit, while he uses Tailwind. Another Air Cutter puts us at 1 HP, and we finish the battle with a Pursuit. With that, and after beating the gym trainers and reaching the required level cap, it was time to face Gym Leader Elesa. This is the final attempt after many tries and failures. I use Squat, Deadlift and OHP. She leads with Emolga 1, and I send Squat. I start with Reflect and she uses Volt Switch, bringing in Emolga 2. I switch to Deadlift. She uses Volt Switch again, and here comes Emolga 1 once more. I use Defense Curl and she outspeeds Deadlift with Pursuit. I start using Rollout after an Aerial Ace which deals massive damage. She heals, but another Rollout puts Emolga down, though it paralyzes us with the static ability. She sends out her other Emolga, which uses Aerial Ace, but Rollout one-shots her. Her last Pokémon is Ebstrika, which uses Volt Switch and defeats our Pokémon. I send Squad once again. She uses a Spark and I land Hypnosis. I put up Reflect again while she sleeps and I start using Psybeam, but she wakes up and defeats us with a Quick Attack. I send out my last Pokémon, OHP. I use Faked Out as usual. And then I use Sand Attack but she outspeeds with Volt Switch. She misses a Spark and Pursuit finishes her Pokémon off with a ton of luck involved. After earning the 4th batch, I went west to Route 5 and Cheren wanted to battle us again. I lead with Pignite against his Liepard. He uses Fake Out first and then I use Arm Thrust, which almost one-shots him. Next turn he misses and Flame Charge knocks him down. Next is D-Wood. I use Defense Curl and he lands a hard Razor Shell. I use Rollout but another Razor Shell defeats us. I send Bench Press, which only needs one Seed Bomb to knock his ace down. He sends Pansear and I switch to OHP. tanking a flame burst and doing a bit of damage with Fake Out. I used Pursuit a couple of times to finish him off. His last Pokemon is Tranquil. I switch to Row, and after tanking 2 Air Cutters, take down one-shots him, winning us another battle. After that we met Alder, crossed the bridge, and quickly arrived at Driftvale City. Then went south into the cold storage to proceed through the story. Here we had to beat several Team Plasma Grunts, and after apprehending the bad guys and watching them get released a minute later, we enter the gym to battle the trainers and reach the level cap. For this battle I chose Deadlift, Bench Press, and OHP. Clay leads with Krokorok, and I send Deadlift. He outspeeds and uses Torment, but with an Arm Thrust, we one-shot the Pokemon. Clay sends Palpitoad, and I switch to OHP. After a Fake Out, I use Assurance, and he uses Bulldoze, lowering our speed. He uses Muddy Water, but with another Assurance, we put him down. His ace is Excadrill, which defeats us quickly with a Rock Slide. I send in Bench Press. He uses Rock Slide again, dealing massive damage, and I land Seed Bomb. With a Slash, he defeats our Monkey. I send in our last resort, Deadlift, which survives a Rock Slide, and with an Arm Thrust, we put his ace down, winning us the battle and another badge. After the battle, we went to round 6, but Bianca wanted to battle us. She leads with Herdier, which is one-shotted by an Arm Thrust from Deadlift. Next is Pampur, and I switch to Bench Press, which uses Seed Bomb and knocks out the Water Monkey. Bianca sends her ace, Servine. She uses a Slam, and I use Acrobatics. I decide to switch to Pull Up, and after 2 Air Cutters we finish her off. Her last Pokemon is Musharna. I switch to OHP, and after 2 Assurances we defeat her Pokemon, winning us another easy battle. I think at this point we are much better than our beloved rivals. After passing through Route 6, we reach the Chargestone Cave entrance. Once inside, thanks to Clay, and deep in the cave, after defeating many Team Plasma Grunts, we arrive at the end to battle N. N leads with Boldor, and I send Bench Press. I had to use several Seed Bombs, but eventually it went down. Next is Joltik, and I don't switch. I land Acrobatics, but he quickly defeats us with Bug Bite, since we were heavily damaged. I send Pull Up, and with Fly first, and then Quick Attack, we defeat his Pokemon. N sends Clink, and I switch to Deadlift, which one-shots the Metal Pokemon with a Flame Charge. His last Pokemon is Ferroseed, which is quickly dispatched by a Flame Charge. After the battle, Tranquil evolved into an Pheasant. Once outside the cave, we arrive at Mistralton City, and were directed towards the Celestial Tower. To reach it, we went north through Route 7. After climbing the tower and beating all the trainers, Herdier evolved into Stoutland. Once at the top, we flew back to Mistralton City, entered the gym, beat everybody, and reached the level cap to fight the next battle. Let's face Gym Leader Skyla using Row, OHP, and Squat. Skyla leads with Swobat, and I send in OHP. After a Fake Out, she lands Acrobatics, and I set up with Home Close. Sadly, another Acrobatics puts me down. I send in Row, and after tanking an Acrobatics, we defeat the Pokemon with a Thunder Fang. Next is Heram Pheasant, which needs 3 Thunder Fangs back to back to put her down. Skyla's ace is Swanna, which puts us in the red. A 4-time super effective Thunder Fang one-shots the Pokemon and wins us an easy badge. Advancing through Route 7, our starter reached his final form, evolving into Emboar. Before entering to his mountain, we had to battle Cheren one more time. He leads with Pheasant, and I send Squat. I use Charge Beam 3 times to defeat the bird. Next is his Liepard, and I switch to Deadlift, which needs 1 Arm Thrust to put him down. Next is Cheren's ace, D-Watt. I switch to Bench Press, but since he takes heavy damage, I send in Squat, which is sadly defeated. I send in OHP, but after landing a Fake Out, he one-shots us with a critical hit Water Pulse. I send in Row to use Intimidate, and thankfully we put him down with Thunder Fang. His last Pokemon is Simisear, and after using Thunder Fang and Crunch, we defeat the monkey and win a battle that should have been much easier. We cannot get cocky. After passing through the mountain, we reach Isirru City. Here I decided to evolve Muna into Musharna. With that, we went inside the gym to do the usual routine, battle everybody, and then reach the proper level cap. I choose Deadlift, Squat, and Row to battle gym leader Bryson. Let's see what happens. Bryson leads with Vanillish, which gets one shot by Deadlift's Flame Charge. Next is Bertic, which requires 2 Flame Charges. His last Pokemon is Cryogonal. Guess what? Flame Charge, one shot. This was the easiest battle so far. With 1 badge left, we had to face all the Dragon Spiral Tower events. After climbing it, N gets Zekrom. We then went inside the Relic Castle, through Route 4, and the Desert Resort, and after finishing that event, we got the Lightstone. Then we could proceed through Route 8. At the end of the route, we had to battle Bianca for the last time. Let's see how strong she has become. She leads with Stoutland, which gets one shot by an arm thrust from Deadlift. She sends Simipour and I switch to Squat. We had to use Charge Beam several times and also Psychic to defeat the Pokémon. We had a ton of luck since she missed a lot and made poor move choices. Bianca sends her ace, Serperior. She misses her first Leaf Blade, but the second does massive damage. 2 Psychics are enough to put her down. Lastly, she sends her own Musharna, which only requires 2 Shadow Balls to defeat her. Great job, Bianca! After crossing the Tubeline Bridge, we arrive at Route 9, and then Opelucid City. After more story events, we finally entered the last gym, battled everybody, and reached the proper level cap. Here I decided to evolve Bench Press to its final form. Our team was finally fully evolved. Let's battle Drayden. I lead with OHP, and after opening with Fake Out, I use Night Slash twice to put his Fracture down. Next is Drudigon, and again 2 Night Slashes are enough to defeat him. Drayden sends his ace, Haxorus. I land a critical hit Night Slash and he misses Dragon Tail. Another Night Slash defeats the Pokémon. That was an amazing performance from OHP. Let's head to Route 10 to battle Cheren for the last time. He leads with Amphesan, and I send OHP. He uses the tech to block Fake Out, and after 3 consecutive Night Slashes, we put him down. Next is his ace, Samurott. I use Night Slash and he lands an Aqua Tail. I switch to Bench Press, which tanks an Aqua Jet. I need 2 Grass Knots to put him down. Cheren sends Simisear and I switch to Squat. 2 Psychic attacks are enough to defeat him. Lastly, Liepard. I switch to Deadlift and after a misclick, I use Hammer Arm to put him down swiftly. Great job, Cheren! After showing our 8 badges, we arrive at Victory Road, and after clearing all the dungeon trainers and items, we arrive at the Pokémon League. Here is the team, starting movesets and held items we are using to face the Elite Four and N. I'll explain any changes as we advance through the battles. Let's see if Cheren's and Bianca's Pokémon are enough to beat the Elite Four. The first battle is against Shauntal. She leads with Cofagrigus and I send OHP. I set up with 2 Honeclaws. Then I use Night Slash to quickly defeat the Pokémon, but we are barely alive. Same thing with her Golurk. Chandelure suffers the same fate, but since it burns us, we are also defeated. I send Row and she goes for Jellicent. I use Crunch and land a critical hit, one-shotting the Pokémon and winning us the first battle. The next contender is Grimsley, and I did not change anything from my team setup. I lead with Pull Up, and after 2 Aerial Aces, we put Scrafty down. Grimsley sends Crocodile. I use Aerial Ace and he goes for Foul Play. We both repeat our moves. I switch to Fly, which leaves him with a sliver of health. I use Quick Attack, but he heals, and after doing some more damage with Fly, Crunch defeats us. I send Bench Press, who retaliates with the Grass Knot. Grimsley sends B-Sharp. I use Leech Seed and X-Scissor almost one-shots us. I stall as much as I can, but eventually we faint. I send in Deadlift, and after tanking a hard Aerial Ace, Flame Charge puts him down. Lastly is Liepard, which after a Fake Out, we put down with 1 Hammer Arm. 2 down, 2 more to go. Time to battle Caitlyn. Again, with the same team and moveset. She sends Reuniclus, and I lead with a Squad. I use Calm Mind 6 times and sweep her entire team with Shadow Ball without much trouble. Let's face the last Elite Four member, Marshall. This time I gave the Expert Belt to Squad and the Rocky Helmet to Deadlift. I also teach Aerial Ace to OHP. I lead with Pull Up. I use Fly, which does a ton of damage but doesn't KO. He heals and I land an Aerial Ace to put him down. Next is Soak. He survives Fly because of this Story ability. He heals and I use Aerial Ace then Quick Attack to put him down. Marshall sends Conkeldurr. Fly does big damage, he misses and Quick Attack finishes the job. His last Pokémon is Mienshao. Again, I use Fly. He hurts himself badly after missing Jump Kick and I put him down swiftly. First try victory against all 4 members. After all the Team Plasma Castle events, it was time to catch Reshiram. As I mentioned in the rules, I allow the use of Reshiram only in this battle. I decided to put him in Pull-Up's position, although Pull-Up's performance was stellar throughout the run. I cocked the Legendary Dragon on my first try with an Ultra Ball, which saved me a ton of time. Time to battle end for the last time. We both lead with our Legendary Dragons. He uses Fusion Bolt and I use Dragon Breath, which one-shots him with a critical hit. Great start. And sends Carracosta. I use Dragon Breath, but Stone Edge puts us down. I send Bench Press, which retaliates with a Grass Knot that puts the turtle down. Next is Vanillux, and I switch to Deadlift. He starts Hail, and Hammer Arm one-shots the Pokémon. Next is Clink Clank. I miss Hammer Arm, and he lands Thunderbolt. He then defeats us with Hyper Beam. I bring bench press back to the field and use Leech Seed while he recharges. I stall but then heals it. After many turns, we win the exchange. And send Zoroark. I use Toxic to poison him before he puts us down. I send Row and he does a ton of damage with Focus Blast. I use Return, which almost puts him down, and he defeats us with another Focus Blast. Poison takes care of the remaining HP. I send OHP, and he sends Archeops, which one-shots us with Stone Age. Our final hope is a squad. He uses Acrobatics twice, but we win the battle with 2 Psychics. A close call, but we managed to pull through. What I did next was lose on purpose against Ghetsis, so we could return to the Pokemon League and switch Reshiram back for pull-up. Here is the final team for the final battle. Let's end Ghetsis' ambitions once and for all. He leads with Cofagrigus, and I send OHP. I land a critical hit, Night Slash, that one-shots his Pokemon. He sends his ace, Hydreigon, who puts us down with Focus Blast. I send in Deadlift. He uses Surf, dealing massive damage, but luckily a Hammer Arm is enough to defeat the dragon. Ghetsis sends Buffalan, which puts us down with a Wild Charge. I send in Row. I use Return, which deals a ton of damage, but he lands a critical hit Head Charge that knocks our Pokemon out. Buffalan is a beast. I choose a squad. He heals his Pokemon and I use Calm Mind. He uses Head Charge again, and I keep setting up twice before landing a Psychic that finally puts this menace down. He sends V-Sharp and X-Scissor defeats us quickly. We are struggling hard, as you can see. I send in Bench Press and this time land a very powerful Focus Blast that puts him down. Ghetsis sends Seismitoad, which gets KO'd by a Grass Knot. Finally, he sends Electros. I miss Leech Seed and he does a ton of damage with Flamethrower. I manage to land my move, but he puts us down. Only pull-up remains, and I stall with Protect and Fly. Eventually, we managed to put him down, winning us the battle. Those last 2 battles were really hard and took a couple of attempts each to get the win. At this point, I was ready to end the run. Both Cheren's and Bianca's Pokemon were awesome to use. I cannot say anything bad about any of them. They were all used a lot and each had their stellar moments. I did feel, however, that the Elite Four weren't hard enough. They only had 4 Pokemon each, and we weren't able to battle Alder. Eventually I decided to do the rematch against the Elite Four, since I felt this team could handle it. So I completed all the post-game content off camera as fast as I could and reached the level cap. Here is the team, moveset and held items I used to battle the Elite Four and the champion. Let's see what happened. Let's start with Shauntal. She leads with Cofagrigus and I send in Pull-Up. I set up Tailwind. She uses Psychic, which does a ton of damage with a critical hit. I bring in Squat, which tanks a Psychic. I use Shadow Ball and she misses Will-O-Wisp. Another Shadow Ball puts the Pokemon down. Next is Jellicent. She uses Shadow Ball and I use Calm Mind. I use it again, then switch to Rest, triggering my Chesto Berry. I use Shadow Ball but do not one-shot her. I use another Calm Mind, anticipating the heal, and try again with Shadow Ball, this time knocking her out. Shauntal sends Frostlass, who outspeeds us, but my Shadow Ball puts her down. Next is Drifblim. I keep using Shadow Ball and one-shot her again. She sends Chandelure, which outspeeds and puts us down. I send in Pull-Up again and set up Tailwind. She misses Fire Blast. I use U-Turn and bring in Deadlift. She uses Psychic, which deals massive damage. I use Stone Edge one-shotting her ace. She sends in her last Pokemon, Golurk, and I use Flare Blitz, which one-shots it, winning us the first encounter. Next is Grimsley, and here's the updated team, since I changed some moves. I lead with Pull-Up against his Sharpedo. I use U-Turn and one-shot the Shark. I send in Bench Press and he chooses Scrafty. I use Focus Blast and he uses Poison Jab, which poisons us. Another Focus Blast puts his Pokemon down. Next is B-Sharp. We outspeed and land a Focus Blast that one-shots this terrible Pokemon. He sends in Drapion. We miss our move and she puts us down. Incredible job from Bench Press. I send in Deadlift. Drapion uses Poison Fang and I use Hammer Arm. We both repeat our moves and I put her down. Grimsley chooses Crocodile and uses Earthquake to defeat our starter. I send in Row and use Return twice to put the Pokemon down. His last Pokemon is Liepard. He lands a Fake Out first and then a Sucker Punch that leaves us in the red. But a critical hit return puts his last Pokemon down. Time to battle Caitlyn. I did not change anything from the previous battle. I lead with Pull-Up and she sends Musharna. I use U-Turn and send in OHP, who gets put to sleep. She uses Reflect and next turn switches to Reuniclus. I wake up and land a critical hit Night Slash and she misses. Sadly, Focus Blast puts us down. I send in squad and try the same strategy as last time. I use Calm Mind 4 times and put him down with a Shadow Ball, though she manages to paralyze us. Caitlyn sends Metagross, which almost knocks us out due to paralysis. I manage to rest and need 2 Shadow Balls to beat it. She sends Bronzong. Shadow Ball does massive damage, but it uses Payback and knocks us out. I send in Deadlift to avenge squad and Flare Blitz knocks the Bell out. She brings Musharna back and another Flare Blitz is enough to one-shot her. Next is Sigilyph, which outspeeds and knocks Deadlift out with a Psychic. I send in Pull Up again. I use Tailwind and she uses Ice Beam. I use U-turn and bring Row into the fray, who receives a critical hit Psychic. Luckily, Return is enough to bring the Pokémon down. Caitlyn's last Pokémon is Gothitelle. I deal a lot of damage with Crunch, but Psychic knocks us out. Only Pull Up left. I use U-turn and knock her out. That was a much harder battle than the last time we faced her. Let's see what happened against Marshall. I made some changes to the team again, as you can see in the footage. Marshall leads with Breloom and I send in Pull Up. I use Fly and one-shot him. Next is Soak. I use U-turn and land a critical hit, then send in Bench Press, who tanks a Stone Edge that does a lot of damage. I use Leech Seed and he misses a Poison Jab. I use Double Team to stall, but Poison Jab knocks us out. I send in Squad, who tanks a Stone Edge, and I start setting up with Calm Mind 4 times, tanking every hit we receive. I use Rest and the Chesto Berry, then begin attacking with Psychic, dealing massive damage and knocking him down. Next is me and Xiao. After he uses Fake Out and Acrobatics, I use Psychic and one-shot him. Next is Throw, who uses Earthquake and puts us in the red. We use Psychic and one-shot it. Marshall sends Toxicroak. I try Rest, but he outspeeds and knocks us out with an Earthquake. I send in Pull Up and use Fly, one-shotting him. Here's Conkeldurr, his last Pokémon. I use Fly again, dealing a lot of damage. He uses a Stone Edge, but we manage to survive. I use Fly again, which is enough to knock his last Pokémon out, winning us a very hard battle. An incredible performance here from Pull Up. No N and no Ghetsis this time. Let's beat the champion of the Unova League with our rivals team members. Alder leads with Axelgor and I send Pull Up. I use Fly and one-shot him. Great start. Next is Vanillux and I use U-turn to bring Deadlift in. He sets up Light Screen and a Flare Blitz is enough to melt him. Next is Buffalan, which cannot withstand a Hammer Arm and faints. Alder sends Escavalier. Guess what? Flare Blitz, one shot. Next he sends his legendary Pokémon Volcarona. Since we are low on health, Overheat is enough to put us down. I send in Pull Up and use Fly, one-shotting the Big Moth. His last Pokémon is Druddigon. I set up Tailwind and he uses Outrage, putting our friend down. I send in Row to intimidate. I land an Ice Fang that makes him flinch and another one puts him down. By far the easiest battle. We beat him on our first attempt. We are the champions. This run was fun to do since I had never used some of these 6 Pokémon on my team before. I think the run shows how viable they are, and Cheren and Bianca were right to choose them as their partners. This little tribute to them ends here. I hope you enjoyed the run as much as I did. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Take care.